Welcome to LGP's podcast, Homegrown in the Heart, special day today. As we focus on the good people of the Yakima Valley and the heart of Washington and the love and the wonderful things that they do for one another in the name of service, we're going to introduce to you Shawn Niles, also known as the Fat Pastor. He's a homegrown product that's gone around the world, loving people with his creations in food and the culinary arts.
Well, I'm a homegrown pastor turned professional chef. Was on MasterChef and got to cook for Gordon Ramsay. Have had some amazing opportunities here in the Valley, but also just in the overall food world, getting to cook for Gordon, getting to cook for Massimo Bottura, getting to see my son jump on MasterChef Junior and cook for Gordon and the rest of the crew. I've really had some incredible opportunities in my life, but my hope, my goal, my dream is to be able to take those opportunities and to see it make a difference here in Yakima.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I've been watching you on Instagram and enjoying the videos. You've had some really cool guests.
Good.
It's great.
We're building a group of people that born and raised. And I should ask you, born in the heart?
Born and raised.
All
Yes,
right,
sir.
All right. Because if you weren't, we'd have to.
That's right. I have to cancel the whole thing. Yep.
Yeah, and actually that's not true because we do have folks who are transplant. Ryan Griffey, my partner, was on.
Yep.
And it's amazing to see the people that come build their homes and their families and their lives in the heart of Washington.
Yeah.
And I'm a little biased again in favor of the folks who were born and raised here.
That's right.
So we all know one another and we sync together.
Love it.
So tell me a little bit about the Shawn. We're going to get a little bit of the Shawn Niles story.
Oh man.
Okay. And I did not ever know you.
Sure.
As Shawn Niles.
Yeah.
I knew this guy that was the Fat Pastor.
The Fat Pastor. That's
and
right.
I was thinking, he's not a fat pastor. Who is this guy? So tell me a little bit of your story in terms of where you started out here in Yakima, where you went to school, where you grew up, and then we'll pick up from there.
Yeah, so I'm Yakima born and raised. I was born in 81 here in Yakima.
Okay.
And grew up in the Valley. I went to Castlevale for kindergarten, and it was the last year Castlevale was open.
Yeah.
And so transferred over to Robertson, went to Robertson All Elementary, and then went to Wilson, and then graduated from Eisenhower.
Okay.
So
you were
I
a
am
Wilson
cadet.
Cavalier.
Wilson Cavalier, yes.
Yeah, and on to become a cadet.
I became a cadet. You know, it's like that graduation, Cavalier to cadet. It's got to be natural,
It's a
guess.
big one. Yeah. I actually went to Wilson for a year.
Okay.
Somehow got diverted out of that ramdom in West Valley into Wilson, and then by the grace of God, navigated my way back to the promised land.
Yes,
in West Valley. And I got to rib you a little bit because you're a cadet. So
I love it. Well, my son's a West Valley Ram now, so he goes to Cottonwood
Praise
Elementary.
the Lord,
so
brother.
we're in. Yeah,
you've made it. You made
That's
it. Right. So after high school, let me tell you. So I'm assuming you got a pretty good. Not the childhood, but your formative years here in the Valley.
Yeah.
Tell me what you remember about those years.
Man, not a lot about food. I mean, so that's probably why I love food, is because there wasn't a lot of option back in the day.
Okay.
I remember JB's. I remember my family go to JB's, and we'd go to Pioneer Pies, and those were kind of the steadfast, like we could trust those places,
Okay.
And so I remember that, but there wasn't a whole lot outside of that as far as exciting food.
Okay.
So I remember that. I had a great childhood. My parents were amazing. My dad owned a business called Niles Auto Body.
Okay.
People trusted him to do honest work and good work when it came to cars. And then my mom worked in the school district, and so she did a few different things, but probably is most known for her work in the GED program, taught at YVC for the Yakima School District, and just helped kids who were coming in that had a hard background in the school and weren't doing things the normal way, and she would love them to success.
Did you have sibs?
Yeah, yep. They're all older than me, so my parents were a little bit older when I was born, so my brothers and sisters are 12 years older than me and up. And so I've got a brother who passed away. He would be 63 this year if he was alive.
Okay.
And then it goes all the way down to, let's see, my brother is 55, 54. And then, he's the youngest after me. So, and I'm 42.
So you probably hear this all. You're the baby of the family.
I'm the baby of the family, the happy accident.
Yeah. Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
And if you ever read Kevin Lehman's birth order book, who I think he's maybe passed away now, but he wrote a book called The
Okay.
Birth Order Book, which everybody, once they read it, they said, that has nothing to do with me. That doesn't describe me at all. When in fact, it actually
Probably
describes
does.
people to a T.
That is so funny.
Birth order is pretty key. So
Yeah.
we're going to get into I call it the chefdom.
Yeah.
A bit, but anybody in your family that was into the world of cooking and
Yeah, it's really interesting. So my great grandmother cooked for loggers, and so she was known for her just incredible kind of country style home cooking, real simple but delicious food.
Okay.
And so that was on my mom's side, and then my grandmother and my grandfather on my dad's side were amazing cooks as well.
Okay.
My grandfather cooked in the military, and so he would cook on ships that were out. They grew up in the South, and
Okay.
so my dad grew up in Ballabhatchery in Alabama,
Okay.
and so that was kind of where his family, his legacy was from. My mom's side from like the Tennessee Smoky Mountains, that area.
Beautiful.
They all kind of made their way up to Yakima. So, yeah.
So we're kindred spirits here because my daddy's from Tennessee.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, and
That's cool.
I can tell you, if you say your grandmother cooked for loggers.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was right out of high school, I went to a logging camp in Alaska,
Oh, okay.
and I can tell you this:
Yeah.
when you're on an isolated little island, and you're working 7 days a week, cutting timber, the one thing you look forward to is the food.
The food. Yeah.
And the importance of a
Yep.
cook that actually can put it out there and comfort, because I watched entire camps.
Yeah.
If the cooking wasn't good, people
Yeah.
leave.
Oh, yeah.
So your grandmother
That's
had a
amazing.
calling there
Yeah.
to keep timber, the timbermen going and the
Absolutely.
logging happening. So that's wonderful.
That's awesome.
After high school, take us up to what was the path of
Yeah.
of Shawn Niles after high school?
I knew I was called to ministry, and so that was honestly what I thought I would do for my entire life, at least in a traditional sense.
Yeah.
And so I went into some short-term schooling just to get my ministerial licenses, did some college, and then moved to New Jersey. And so lived in New Jersey for a couple years and met my wife, who's from Trinidad in the Caribbean.
Okay.
So we got married in New Jersey, and then we moved to Hawaii for a couple years.
Okay.
And all throughout that time, I was living with people who were amazing in the kitchen. And so when I moved to New Jersey, I moved in with a medical doctor from India, had never had Indian food before, and she'd make these amazing curries and naan and roti and just the best food ever. And then I moved in with a gentleman who was from Italy. And so he would bring me upstairs, and he'd make pasta and sauces, and we'd go back and forth, and he'd teach me what he did. And then, of course, meeting my wife, her mother made the most amazing Caribbean Trinidadian food. And so I was having experiences with all this global food.
Yeah.
Moved to Hawaii, and the people there love to cook for you.
Yeah.
First thing I was told is the sticky rice sticks. I think that's how I became the fat pastor. And so I had amazing
Right
food,
on.
learned their food. And then when my father passed away in 2005, I realized I was feeling pretty far away from home.
Okay.
And so came back to Yakima. In 2006, we've been back ever since.
All right.
Yeah.
So you had a whole multicultural experience around
Yeah.
the globe from different cultures, pouring food
Yeah.
and recipes
Absolutely.
into you. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
really, think about it from a professional perspective.
Yeah.
I just thought I love food and I love cooking for people, and people are cooking for me, and this is so much fun. The best conversations I'd have as a pastor was around the table eating food.
Yeah.
And so it just felt like a real easy thing to push to the side and enjoy as a hobby.
Yeah.
But never thought that it would be something I did professionally.
Breaking of bread with brothers and
Yeah.
sisters is biblical.
That's the best. Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
This is where the heart is revealed, and that's
Yep.
that's wonderful. So,
Yeah.
where'd you live in Hawaii?
Lived in Hilo, Hawaii, on the
Oh.
Big Island. Yeah,
the
rainiest city in the United
the
States.
rainy side of Hilo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I-
Super cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. My wife didn't enjoy it as much.
Okay.
She felt pretty stuck on the island.
Okay.
But she didn't enjoy doing the things I did. I love to go cliff jumping and spearfishing and
Yeah.
all the guy things. So.
Yeah. No, that's a wonderful.
Yeah.
That's of all the islands, that is my favorite island.
Oh, it's amazing.
The Big Island.
It's amazing.
I'm more of a Kona.
Yeah,
Side guy.
yep.
That sunny.
How
that
could you
sunny
not
coast.
be?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
amazing.
right on.
Yep.
So then you come back to your roots here.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And what's the plan then?
So I came back. I again had been ministering during that time. I worked at a small church over in Hawaii, and
Okay.
I got invited to come and be the youth and worship pastor of the church I grew up in.
Okay.
So I came back there and worked there for a couple years, and then kind of transitioned throughout that time to different things. worked at some really cool churches, helped start some churches,
Okay.
and eventually started my own church.
Okay.
But during that time, I think it was 2009, I had been sitting down with my wife, Tennille, and we made a bucket list, and we said, what are some things we want to do before we die? And so
Okay.
wrote down a bunch of stuff. And one of the things I said is, man, I'd love to cook for Gordon Ramsay before I die. And
Right on.
that was in 2009. And 2016, actually, my niece is a chef in Portland.
Okay.
And she said, hey, they're having tryouts for MasterChef. You need to come. I was like, oh, no. You know, made all these excuses. And she goes, no, you said you want to do this. You need to come.
It's on the list.
It's on the list. Yep. And so I grabbed a buddy and we drove down to Portland and I tried out for the show. And 6 months later, I was cooking for Gordon Ramsay. So
Wow.
it's
Okay.
crazy.
Not an easy guy to cook for.
Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely.
I only know this because I know nothing about cooking and
Sure.
food, but I watch this guy on
Yeah.
TV occasionally, and I see this current venture that he's on,
Mm-hmm.
and all I can remember is these people under enormous amounts of stress,
Mm-hmm.
and a timer's clicking.
Yep.
And they're trying to create something wonderful
Yeah.
in a time crunch, and then get it on a conveyor belt before the tray leaves.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah.
I have to admit I don't watch a lot of TV.
Sure.
Period. But
Sure.
I know Gordon Ramsay, and I know some of the shows that he.
Yeah.
Just tell us about your experience with that.
You know, it was really incredible. I was scared because being a minister, I thought, they could really play this a certain way. They could either make me look like a good guy or a bad guy.
Yeah.
You never really know. And so they pitted me against another minister. So I thought, oh, this is going to be really interesting.
Okay.
This is going to be fascinating. So found out I was cooking fried chicken. And of course, my competitor is from the South, African-American lady, became my best friend. We were in her wedding last year. I mean, we just hit it off. But she beat me, of course, with fried chicken. It's classic Southern fried chicken. I made a Hawaiian fried chicken.
Okay.
But it was such an amazing experience because Gordon loved my food.
Okay.
And so Gordon stood in front of me and he goes, Shawn, I really didn't think this was going to work. He goes, but you killed it. And this is some of the best fried chicken I've ever eaten in my life.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so he ended up voting for me. The other judges are the ones who voted me off, but Gordon stood there and fought for me, which was the most awesome, incredible experience in the world to have Gordon Ramsay fight for you.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And so, he stood there and, shook his head as the other judges voted me off. But afterwards he looked at me and he said, Shawn, it's clear that you're born to serve your community, but it's also clear that you're born to cook. And that was life-changing for me. That was when something that had been a passion on one side all of a sudden started making me wondering, could I actually do this? Could I maybe do this? If Gordon Ramsay says you're born to cook, maybe that's worth considering.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's amazing when somebody pours words of life.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, this is biblical.
Absolutely.
As well, right?
100%.
When people speak out, because we can, right? We can speak words of death.
Yep.
Or we can speak words of life.
Yep.
And I can think of instances in my own life where somebody took the time to speak out words of life
Exactly.
over me and into me.
Yeah.
And it is life-changing.
Yep.
And it comes sometimes from the strangest places.
Yeah.
When you least expect it, and there it is, and it's just an infusion of goodness and of life. So that's,
I tell my son often, I say words create worlds. And the way that we express ourselves can completely transform somebody's life. And I got to see Gordon last year.
Okay.
I hadn't seen him since I was on the show. Yeah. And he walks in the room as my son is getting ready to compete on MasterChef Junior.
Okay.
And he looks at me and he goes, Shawn. I said, oh, man. I said, I just have to tell you, what you said to me 7 years ago completely changed my life. Yeah. And he goes, Shawn, I'll never forget you, and I will never forget what you made for me. He goes, it was some of the best that I've ever had.
That's
and
fantastic.
He said, to see your son here is incredible. Congratulations.
Right on.
It was amazing. Yeah.
Right on.
Very full circle.
So has it been a complete transformation from formal ministry into cooking?
Yeah, so when I was on MasterChef, I had started a church. I had been in that church for about a year when I went on the show.
Okay.
So I came back and I thought, I really don't know where this is all going to go. And I really feel committed to ministry and I feel committed to this church. And so continued to pastor. But the food got more and more successful, and it became really, really difficult to balance the two.
Yep.
It was difficult on me, it was difficult on my family, and it was difficult on my church family. Okay. There was just that constant conflict inside of me going, am I giving too much to one and forsaking the other. And eventually it just got to that place of where food is hard, food is difficult. And I was at a really tough point in my life where I knew I needed to back away from one, and I knew that backing away from formal ministry was what I needed to do.
Okay.
I needed to take care of my family. I needed to be able to provide for my family. I needed to focus on my family because my family was probably getting the least amount of attention of anything that I was doing, and that was unhealthy. It wasn't working. And so stepped down from ministry and really started reevaluating everything.
Tough choice.
It was a very tough choice.
Yeah.
Very tough choice. You know, what I realized is that ministry is going to be inside of me no matter what I do or where I go. I love people, and I love being able to pour into people, whatever that looks like.
Yep.
And so I realized I've got Yakima that I get to serve on a regular basis through my food.
Yep.
And that's a pretty big congregation that may not even consider itself a congregation, and that's okay.
Right on. Yeah.
But I know that when I get to serve them food, I get to make their lives a little bit different and hopefully better.
You do.
And that's the goal.
Absolutely. And I remember the very first time that I saw you, we were at a bar, not a bar function, but at a legal function. And I've gone to so many of these events, lawyer events, and usually it's some rubber chicken and some greens, maybe. Yep. And so you sort of expect that.
Sure.
And I remember you got up at this function and you started to talk about what you had prepared. And I remember thinking, my first thought was, wow, okay, this cat's pretty articulate. Number one, he's explaining what it is, and he's not just telling us, he's like living it as he's telling us what it is. And I can tell it's meaningful, and that you actually put thought and preparation and passion into the meal that we were about to enjoy. And I thought, well, now there's a first. There's a first. And then we enjoyed the meal, and I thought, wow, this will knock your socks off. Incredible.
Thank you.
And delicious.
Thank you.
And at a lawyer function, no less, which you just grow to anticipate and expect is sort of going to be mediocre. That's going to be the best you're going to get. And it was stellar.
Wow.
And it stuck in my mind, and I thought, okay, this guy loves what he does. He enjoys not just doing it, but then talking about and explaining to people what you're about to experience. And that's a game changer. So congrats to you.
Thank you.
And the fact that you could crack that legal community nut, which is a tough nut crowd. They complain about everything, right?
That's awesome.
But I didn't hear anything but praise, and just so high marks, man. Good
I
for
appreciate
you.
that. You know, and we as a team, we found out we were going to be doing this event. You know, we created the proposal, and we're excited. And again, we want to create something that we can be proud of. But we thought going into it, we're like, oh, we're going to serve a bunch of lawyers.
Yeah.
I wonder what that's going to be like. You know, we're a little
trouble.
nervous. Yeah, exactly.
Trouble. Yeah.
And I promise you, we have said this. We've served you guys twice now.
Yeah.
And we walk away going, that is one of the funnest events that we do all year. Everybody's so cool and so happy to have good food. And you would never guess that you guys spend most of your days arguing with each other. You know?
Yeah, exactly right. Well, and it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure, and it's a delight. So hopefully we'll get any more years.
I sure hope so. It'd be an honor,
Yeah.
be an absolute honor.
Right on. So tell me a little bit about the history of how did you get this moniker, Fat Pastor? Because I probably shouldn't say the word fat. Oh gosh, that's a bad word. No, because we live in this world, and I deal as a lawyer.
Yeah,
I am constantly aware of this thing called fat bias.
Yeah.
Which is not a good thing.
Yeah, sure.
I have clients. If I have clients that are very large people, I have to be aware that lots of folks will view those people, if they are overweight, if they are considered quote unquote fat, in a negative, pejorative way. So I'm really sensitive to that. But you've took this idea of fat and pastor, and you've branded this thing. So tell me a little bit about that story.
Yeah, it was kind of a marketing thing. It was like, how do I create something that's going to catch people's attention and something that will be meaningful at the same time? And so Fat Pastor sounds like something else. And so, people connect it to that, and that's kind of fun. But fat is where the flavor is. And the best flavor that you're ever going to get when you think about these amazing steaks, that people are grilling up and they are melting that fat into the steak as it cooks. That's where your flavor comes from.
Okay.
You can season that thing all you want to, but when the fat comes together the way it's supposed to and it melts into the meat, you've got the most amazing flavor in the world. When we look for a good cut of steak, we're looking for the marbling, and that's the fat.
Okay.
And so fat's where the flavor is. And in these other cultures around the world, fat is such a good thing. It means vibrance. It means vitality. It means even can mean health, and there are a lot of diets that will tell you that fat is not bad. It's how you consume it. It's why you consume it. And it's the overindulgence side of things. But that's not just relating to fat. So fat is, unfortunately, it's one of those words that has been, like you said, it can be a very negative thing, but it doesn't have to be. And so the fat pastor obviously comes from being a pastor of a church, and we say that we pastor the fat. We make sure that we put that fat in the right direction.
Right on. Right on. I'm going to remember. Okay, so I'm going to remember. I'm always looking for these phrases that actually have meaning.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I will remember from our conversation, fat is where the flavor is.
Fat equals flavor.
Fat equals flavor. That's fantastic.
Yes, sir.
So, Fat Pastor, tell us about what's the direction Fat Pastor is going?
Yeah.
What you got cooking?
So Fat Pastor's done a bunch of things. So we've had a couple restaurants. We opened those restaurants during COVID. That was incredibly difficult. And so those restaurants are since closed. But what we do now that I absolutely love is pop-ups around the valley, winemakers dinners, private dinners, lots of catering, fundraisers, and of course celebrating my son as he kind of gets to do some of his endeavors. Having that freedom, not having a restaurant, allowed me to be able to spend a month with my son in LA while he competed on MasterChef Junior.
Right.
That gave me the freedom to be able to do that. Not having a restaurant allows me to travel and to be able to go and cook with some of my friends around the country and people who are on different shows and competing in different things. If we're working on a TV show right now, actually, which is really cool.
Okay.
I've got some friends here in the Valley that own a production studio, and so we have filmed the first half of a series that we're I can't say the official title yet because they're still getting the final clearance on that. You know how that works.
It's in the works.
Yep.
In the works. Okay.
But we're developing this concept around the Valley's wineries and breweries and all of the things that we create here in Yakima that pair perfectly with food.
Right on.
And so we filmed about half of that. We're building a studio right now, and we're going to be filming the rest of it here pretty soon. But it's going to be an amazing first-of-its-kind television show here in the Valley, centered around food and drink.
Right on. And this valley it is a special place.
Oh, my gosh.
With special people.
Yeah.
And sometimes we've got a little bit of a bad rap historically.
Sure.
And I'm always careful while I love the valley. And I try to promote the goodness of our valley and all the special things about the people and what we have here. I get a little protective too, because I don't want us to turn into the next victim of. I got to be careful here. The 206 infiltration, where all of a sudden our world has changed.
Sure.
Right? I mean, there's a little bit of Mayberry.
Yeah.
I'm probably dating myself there. In our valley, that is really super great. And anyway, I appreciate the fact that you are taking a look at the things that make this valley great, and you're combining it with your passion, and ultimately serving people.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is, I think, at the core of what we do in Yakima really well, is serve people. So,
absolutely. Yeah. We have to be able to serve people who are consumers, and we have to be able to serve people who are the producers.
Yes.
And oftentimes that doesn't necessarily balance out. And so that's one of the reasons why this project is so important to us, is because we get to really highlight the people who are producing in Yakima.
That's beautiful.
And making Yakima such a beautiful place.
Now, you remember, as you go forward in this project, if you just need people to eat, put me at the top of the list, because I promise you I'll be there for you.
I love it.
I can't do anything else.
I love it.
But if it's eating good food, I can do that really well.
You know, it's amazing, the supporters of food I run across. It's incredible.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Everybody loves it. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so tell me, let's do a couple of things here. Give me I want you to give me so far. You got a short life.
Yeah.
How many years on the planet?
Oh, gosh, 42 now.
All right, 42, man. You're in the prime.
Yep.
You're in the
That's
prime.
right.
Okay. I just turned 60 this year, so
love it.
I'm like, okay, you got to recreate yourself here, because you're getting older. All right, 42. Give me what you count as one of your biggest successes in 42 seasons on the
Oh
planet.
man, it's got to be my son, and that's probably a little bit cheesy. As
That's
far
not
as
cheesy.
family goes, seeing my son become a confident, excited, go-getter young man is incredible.
Yeah.
This confidence that I've seen develop in him since he's been young. But even after being on the show, it's just blowing my mind. The way that he can stand in front of a camera. I wasn't doing that at 9 years old. There's no way.
Right on. Yeah.
That is incredible. Yeah. I've also had the opportunity to cook for just some incredible people here in the Valley, but also around the world. Getting invited to go and stay with Massimo Bottura back in 2022. He's rated the #1 chef in the world multiple times, #1 restaurant in the world. And staying at his home for a week was probably one of the biggest highlights of my life. Absolutely huge. So those are a couple things that I think are just massive for me.
You make the Valley proud.
Well, I'm sure trying, man.
Thank you. And a dad's heart is right in the right spot.
Yeah.
So kudos, and keep going that direction. Now let me flip the switch here.
Yeah.
All right, flip the switch. Got some successes. Biggest failure.
Oh man,
biggest failure.
Goodness.
This is a hard one because people go, I don't want to talk about my failures, and I come from a crowd of people.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about lawyers. They never want to talk about failures. They don't want to talk about successes. And the reason I was asked this question is because our failures, I really believe, shape who we are.
Yeah. Yep.
Even more so than our victories or the things we're successful at.
Yeah.
So share with us something that from your heart, that you, at least in your mind, you consider, God, I missed the mark on that one.
Yeah, it's hard. It's deep. It's really deep because kind of going back to what I was talking about before, realizing that I was on the verge of losing my family because I had not put them first.
There you go.
Not on purpose. Not on purpose. But just allowing life to take over. We were so successful in that season that we were too successful. And I think that favor in the wrong season without the right character will crush you.
Oh.
And that's kind of what we experienced. We were doing so well that it crushed us. Yeah. And thank God that, and I mean literally thank God, that I had the opportunity to be able to make that wrong right and to fix that. And it meant that we had to back off from a number of things. I mean, I said that we backed off from the church, but it also meant backing off from our restaurant El Grasso at the time, which was wildly successful and painfully successful. Yeah. And so being able to step back and make that right was good. But my goodness, that is definitely the biggest failure that I can see in my life was allowing my family to almost be ripped out of my hands by my own doing. So,
yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And it's that's the kind of heart to heart that actually helps people.
Sure.
So appreciate it. So Shawn, if I'm always wondering. If I'm I want to have an event, or I want to get together with some friends, and I want to introduce them to the Fat Pastor and the food that you prepare, so we can break that bread together.
Yeah.
And we can share our heart and soul together. How do we reach out to you? How do people get a hold of you? Google Fat Pastor.
Yeah, there you go.
Tell us how to do that, because what I want to make sure is if there's anybody that watches our discussion today and they feel a nudge that, you know what, I want to have some of that Shawn Niles Fat Pastor love come my way, that they can reach you. How do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, we again, people can definitely follow us on our Facebook page, the Fat Pastor Yakima. Okay. On Instagram, we are _Fat Pastor.
Okay.
And then our website is very easy, thefatpastor.com. Email's very easy, thefatpastor@thefatpastor.com. So very, very simple. We try to keep it easy so people can find us and reach us pretty easily.
And you are available for events.
Absolutely,
for dinners, for get-togethers.
Yep.
With people who want to share good food, and some love and some conversation with one another.
Absolutely. We love, the big gatherings. We love the small gatherings.
Okay.
We do the big gatherings because those are fun and those are exciting. But my favorite thing in the world is doing the small, 12 to 20 people. That is my sweet spot. I love it.
Okay.
And so anything, 12 people to 300 people, 500 people, we'll do it. And we've got it.
Share the love.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It's really a pleasure and honor to be with you here today.
Same here. I want to say thank you very much to my dear friend, Shawn Niles, a.k.a. the Fat Pastor. And here's the call to action. you want to get together with friends and family and neighbor, and you want to build community, there is nothing like inviting Shawn into your home, into your event, and sharing good food and good love with each other, because that's what they actually make. They actually make that, and they make it really well. So call the Fat Pastor, let them in, and enjoy. I've got to do my best Gordon Ramsay.
Right, yeah. You gotta bounce.
It's gonna be like this. It's like, okay, Shawn, this chicken is amazing. Unbelievable. I've never had Hawaiian chicken. I thought this would be a disaster. And I tasted it and I'm like, oh my God, this is a winner. Can't you people see this? It's a winner.
That's right.